Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Compelling Conversations podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by a good friend, Omar. Omar, thanks so much for being here.
No, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is fun, dude. Thank you for being here, for real. I
No, I
wanted to
commend
begin.
this.
Say that
Not
again?
a lot of people, I commend you for really doing this. A lot of people, they kind of like, they don't know what they want to do, but you know what you want to do with your goals and how you move things. So, author, podcast, everything you're doing it all, man. So, I really appreciate you for having me.
Thank you, man. That honestly means a lot coming from you. I really appreciate that. I wanted to begin by asking you, are you a Harry Potter fan by chance?
Oh, man. Of course, man. I'm a
And
Gryffindor. Come on.
wow, it's funny you say that. I don't know if you remember one of my friends, Renee. He said to me one time, he goes, Omer, the shape your hair is, it looks like you're a Gryffindor. And I was like, wow, that's a funny thing to say.
It's a
But
compliment. Hey, Gryffindor, come on.
hey, I gotta take it, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And the reason I was asking about Harry Potter is because like I've just been really sucked up into that world lately, and just kind of like looking at it more so as an adult than as like a child fan. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, the things you see, it's like, whoa, like you got serious symbols happening here. But I'm curious with this Harry Potter conversation, has
Uh-huh.
popularity ever eaten you up? Because I feel like at some point that has eaten Harry up. So I'm curious if you've ever experienced something like that.
For popularity, I would say it does in a sense. Like if you're not really, it all comes back to your surroundings, right? So if you don't have like good people to keep you on the edge and make sure that you're on your toes all the time, you can be slightly influenced by other people. So if everybody's like, "Yo, did you watch that, bro? It's like my favorite movie." Then you meet another person like, "Yo, that movie was so awesome." And then like all these people are saying the same thing. You're like, you know what? I might have to go watch that movie now. So it really depends on how you like your surroundings, your edge, how you think, you know, if you really trust other people or not. So that's what I would have to say to your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, it's something I think about as well. Anytime I pose a kind of question like this to anyone, the answer always seems to revolve around like the people you surround yourself with. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an important thing, man. Based on that, do you how do you gauge the people you surround yourself with?
So like, I'm not gonna lie, starting off, I didn't really, I never thought like your environment was very important, right? It was not until I started UH and I got involved with the MSA that I saw how much of like my mindset changed. I was more motivated on my team, making sure that you know what I achieve my goals. Because if you surround yourself by people who are achieving their goals, it makes you sit back like, huh, do I want to be that one person out of the group who's just chilling, like not doing nothing with their life, or do I also want to go pursue my own goals? So I feel like you just gotta be I don't know. It's just it all just comes all together, subhanAllah. So I don't know. Like subhanAllah, Allah brought me closer to MSA, but at the same time, you gotta seek. You can't just some people who don't really want to do anything with their life, they'll just stay home. And I feel like by staying home, you don't get that opportunity to mingle and surround yourself by other people. So it depends who you are as an individual.
One of the things that made me think about was should a person be ashamed of being good at some things as opposed to other things? Because you're talking about this thing about pursuing your goals in a group of friends.
Right.
Everybody's like a different individual. Some people are better at some things as opposed to others. Should you ever be ashamed of what you're good at?
Nah, I would not say you should be ashamed. Like you should be like everybody, like you said, is different. They have their own goals. Um, but like we are taught to learn like basically if you just learn one thing and you stick to it and become really good and it benefits, that's more good enough than trying to do all these kind of goals that everybody's doing because then you're never going to really reach your maximum level. you know.
Yeah. It's like this thing that I think the Buddha said, which was something along the lines of dig like one hole and make it to the water. Don't dig
uh
six different holes and never reach the water.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
A good, that's a good quote. Yeah,
Have you ever
basically.
gotten caught up in that? Like digging multiple different holes as opposed to focusing on one?
You know, I would say yeah. Growing up, we're always like this. This happens like every year when you get this aspect, like oh, it's a new year, new me. You know, you make your list of goals. You're like, okay, today I'm gonna work out the gym, read a book. I'm gonna go exercise, play some basketball. You have all these tasks, but you're not being really realistic with it. So you get to see like, oh yeah, it's not achievable. As opposed to having that one goal, like you know what, this year I'm gonna focus on growing in the sense of being more better in shape with my body and my mind. Now you're just focusing on aspect that can help you grow as a person and your mind and your body, as opposed to having all these other goals. So
Is there an aspect in your life experience that you focused on and you felt like, wow, I think this would be an amazing thing if other people also worked on this in their lives?
yeah, I would say uh as someone, so there was a time where I used to be really terrified of just speaking in general, right? And most importantly, public speaking. And one time I was just like, this was back when I was in ACC. I was just a regular person, just went to this one orientation about one of those Natural Society leadership program for being honor students and stuff. So I went to one of those orientation and they're like, okay, we're gonna have whoever's open to becoming like filling officer roles, just go ahead and sign up. And I got saw the sheet. It said vice president, secretary, and president. And in my head, I was like, man, this is a new journey. Why don't I shoot for the stars? Like, So I checked the president box, not knowing what I was going to get myself into. And once I checked it, lo and behold, they hold the open jar right there. And I was put right on the spot to go ahead and give like a brief summary of who I am as a person and why do I think I could be a good position for this role. And me being put on the spot made me like, oh man, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't sure what I was going to say and all that kind of stuff. It really like forces me to like really think outside the box. And through that time, I got the role, and it just slowly and slowly they kept throwing me on stage here and there. Like, hey, you're the president. You got to talk on stage to a crowd of 200 people. So it really, I feel like it's a good aspect for us to really just step out the box when we're not comfortable with something. Don't be like, oh, I'm not comfortable with that. You know what? I'm not going to do it. Rather, take that step and get outside the box, and I promise you, you're going to feel like you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot.
No, no, no. Thank you for sharing that. When you were being thrown on the spot over and over again, did your fear diminish?
See, there's a different. Okay, there's two things that popped in my hand, right? Not my hand, my mind. When you say fear, fear is something that stops you from doing something. Like when you get fear, you get scared. You get that feeling overwhelmed. Uh, that fear at the beginning did exist, but there was a time where it was not no longer fear. It became more of just like nervousness, and that's where you got to distinguish nervousness and fear from. So I did get still nervous, and I think if you talk to a bunch of people who still do like public speaking or anything, and you ask them, "Do you get nervous?" They're always going to say, "Yeah, I have my moments where I still get nervous." What you just got to do is just embrace the nervousness. Like find a way to cope it where it doesn't seem like you're nervous. So if you're a person that's jittery, talking a lot or it moves a lot, walk while you're giving a speech. That way, it looks like it's just part of the speech.
Yeah. You mentioned about fear, how it stops you from doing something, it paralyzes you.
Yes.
What do you suppose is what are the key features of nervousness? How do you distinguish that from fear?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I would say okay, so nervousness is something where like, okay, I can do this. Like I've done it before, or like I'm just like you're shaking more. And then fear, it kind of comes within your mind more. And you're making a lot of like it's really hard to bridge them, man, because they're kind of similar. But I would say nervousness has more to do with more of an emotion that comes out of you. And fear is something that has been installed in your mind and you're just like, you feel scared. There's a difference of feeling nervous and scared. So fear is kind of tied in more of the scared side. So if you feel a little bit scared about something, you're like, that's your fear kicking in. But if you're not that scared, you're just like jittery nervous, like that's more of your nervous side that's kicking in. That's what
How
I
do
would think.
you?
I'm not an expert. I mean,
Yeah, no, of
the people's
course.
emotion and everything, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I often tell my guests like it's cool, it's just a conversation between us. The light's not shining on you to give like the blanket statement. It's just
Nah, nah,
something out of a
nah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
I how do you reckon someone toughens up and gets brave?
To be honest with you, there's not a true formula, but rather you just gotta just do it, man. You just gotta go. There's not a perfect time. There's not like a formula to it. You just gotta go, do it. And once you keep doing it, even though if you fail the first time, the second time, third time, fourth time, eventually you will get it. And it will, that's just the key to success is keep going at it.
Yeah. Just something I was thinking about when you were talking about fear and how it stops you from doing something. I really love mythology and the symbols involved. And I'm thinking about, the hero that slays the dragon. If
Yes.
fear is something that stops you and paralyzes you, you couldn't slay the dragon. The nervousness, as you mentioned, is okay, I got this, I've done this before. And so that hero is able to slay the dragon because they recognize I got this, I've done this before. And it's
Man,
interesting because it's like,
that's a good way of putting it, man. I like that.
yeah, there's something innate in you, huh? Like
Yeah.
I can do this. I've done this before. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I Yeah, man, that whole concept of fear and courage, it seems as if you can never place a period on it. It seems like it just continues in life. And I'm just curious for any of your thoughts here. How do you feel about that? Because in life, there's just so many things where you overcome them and then you realize, it's a journey of endless mountains. I'm never gonna make it to the top. I'll have to keep on climbing, keep on climbing. How does that make you feel?
I feel like for me, it's something that I came to understanding. Like it's not about all the other hurdles that are going to come our way, but rather you just take it one at a time and you just don't let it really don't focus too much because if you become too tied about the what if, you're going to always, oh, what if I do this? Oh, what if I do this? Oh, what if I get in a car right now and stuff for law, like you get in a car accident, or what if like a lightning strike me, or what if like these what if makes you not able to achieve those hurdles because you're just adding more question and adding fire to it. So it's like I'd
Yeah.
say just stay as it is, just one at a time.
Those are like the whispers of fear that paralyze you, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ifs.
I'm curious, is there anything on your mind that you've been thinking about lately that you've been wanting to discuss or express?
Me, I just like as a whole, all I always want like for people is just to be like go getters, you know. That's something that I always when I wake up, I'm like, what is something that I can achieve today that I didn't achieve yesterday, you know? So I'm always like thinking of ways of to distinguish myself from yesterday. So that's something I always think about or that topic in that sense because you never know when's your last day, so how do you evolve as a person if you don't really live by that?
Yeah. Do you ever miss any past versions of yourself if you're getting better and better every day?
I would say the only time I would miss the past version of myself, honestly, because we're all growing up as adults, is the times we were kids. There was no problems, didn't have to stress about school. It was more just like, hey, I want to go outside and play or play my PlayStation. My mom's not letting me play my PlayStation. I'm on my phone too much. Um, those are the times where you don't really see the real world. You're just living in like a bubble and, it's carefree. That's why we were kids, we're not supposed to know what's happening in the real world. We're not supposed to stress about. anything that's happened. So that's just an aspect that I say because, like, I like to relive my childhood. It'd be nice, but at the same time, I don't distinguish like, hey, I want to change something in my past because everything that I experienced made me who I am.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier about leaving home. What is
Right.
the importance of leaving home?
I feel like, see, leaving home, I feel like when you leave home, you mold yourself. Like you're in the process of molding who you are as a person, right? As opposed to like staying at home, you're more like the only thing that's going to help you motivate is the stuff that you see online or the stuff that you do at home. Which most of the time when people just get home, they're either on their phones, TikTok, playing PlayStation, or watching TV, Netflix. So those are the distractors. So you're basing your character now or who you are as a person on those three things, which, I feel like it's dangerous.
Yeah. I don't know if you can relate to this, but when I drive out to the university, I feel like I flipped some switch. Like I'm like in a new world now, and like just who I am changes as well. And so
Right.
like when I'm walking, it feels a little more alive because I've left home, and it's like a new territory of some kind. And that environment just calls forth someone else from me. Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah, I agree. The feeling like going to campus, driving there, and when you step, it's just like, okay, what's calling out to me today? Like, what's here to calling me to do something, And I feel like that's in everybody. So that's where most people say it's college is where it makes you. That's the final step where it makes you. And you're either going to work the rest of your life or, well, who knows. But like college is where if you use it wise, you could really benefit from it tremendously as a person.
There's moments where I'd walk to class and I'd sit down and I'm like, yes, this is why I'm here. And then when you walk out of the class, you feel like a sense of accomplishment and achievement. Like, yeah, I understood what was going on. Like, I get this. Do you get that feeling as well?
I'll be 1,000% with you, right? I'm an engineering student. So there are times where I'm like, yes, you know what? I'm gonna go to class. We're gonna have a good day, right? But then when I walk out, I'm like, man, oh man, like I did not understand nothing. So, but that's where that comes the resilientness of not quitting. Even though I'm like, man, I did not know nothing, I still got to do my part and go learn that nothing that I didn't learn. So, but there are if I would go back a little bit in time where I was taking like less heavier classes, there were times like I would walk in like yeah man I learned something. This is very beneficial, you know. So
Do you ever feel like quitting anything?
I feel like quitting is always something that would always come in the back of your mind, right? If you're doing something good, there would be a sense of excuse saying, "Oh, you're doing this wrong," or "Oh, you're doing this." I think that's come from the shaitan's whispers. But like quitting will always be somewhere in your mind. It just depends on the person if they're built to like remember, like, look, it's just a thought in your head, but you know what you want, you know what you want to achieve, you know what you want to push through. So that's what I think. I don't want. I'm more. See, I'm a Kobe fan. So quitting for me is a no go. I have that Mamba mentality, so you can't quit. You just got to push through.
Yeah. You mentioned Mamba mentality. There's a movie, Kill Bill, and the main character, her assassin name is the Black Mamba. And at the end of Kill Bill 2, she confronts Bill. And Bill starts talking very interestingly about superheroes. And he mentions how what he likes about Superman is that Superman is born Superman. His alter ego is Clark Kent. Whereas Peter Parker is born as Peter Parker. His alter ego is Spider-Man. In other words, Superman is born the superhero, and his alter ego is just a regular. It's how he sees humanity. Whereas with Peter Parker, he's born just a normal human and his alter ego is a superhero. The point that he was making here was the reason Superman was his favorite superhero was because he stuck true to who he was born as, Superman. And who he pretended to be was how he viewed humanity, kind of like weak and just conventional. I just thought that was a very interesting take on just like superheroes in general. And I was just curious, like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like the alter ego? And you talked about, um, developing like the sort of confidence for public speaking. Did you ever feel like an imposter, or how do you view any of that? I'm just curious.
Man, it's a lot. That's a deep example you gave. But there was a time I would say where I did feel like an imposter. I feel like at every beginning stage of anything you take, you just kind of feel like you don't really like fit in because it's new to you. When I first went, I remember I went to this public speaking convention, and man, all these people who were up there were like going crazy. They were like, I was like, man, like if I got on stage, I look like stupid. Like these guys were really good, you know. And that's where I learned an important lesson of like Superman, the way you said it, like the way he sees humanity, the way he was viewing it. I had to learn how to change how I was viewing things. Like even though they were doing good, why didn't in my mind go like, you know what, I could do that too. I can achieve that. If they can achieve it, I can achieve it. So that was an important lesson that I learned. And yeah, ever since then, that's how I just if they can achieve it, I can achieve it. So
Yeah. And I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but when you do achieve it, you realize like, oh, okay, like that wasn't as difficult as I had thought it to be originally.
yeah, that's that fear factor that you always just been running in your mind, like, man, this all it's going to be really hard. It's going to be this really hard. It's going to be this. But eventually, when you do it, you're like, man, it was a piece of cake. Could have been done it.
Yeah. Could have been done it. I like what you said there. What
Yeah.
do you make of like the right time? Because people always say, "Oh, you're too late to the party, or you're too early to the party." But I always like to say, "Hey, I'm right on time, irregardless." What do you make of that?
Right on time.
Yeah.
I believe for me, right, there's a lot of people that would say, oh, it's not the right time. If you live by that quote, like, oh, it's not the right time for me to do this, it really depends, first of all, on what you're doing. Like, if you're investing, it's up and down. You never know when it's the right time. But
Like life, eh?
yeah, just like life. So like you will never know when it's the right time. You just gotta like just trust in yourself. Trust that you put in the work to know what you're going towards, and all you gotta do is say Allah Kareem, man. Allah will do the rest.
Yeah, I like that. Where does your reliance and faith come from?
My faith, as a kid, I would say like I grew up in Dubai and being around like Muslim culture and everything, like around family and all that kind of stuff. But it was more as a kid, my grandfather, he's the one that took me in. Like he always brought me to the masjid. He always made sure like, I was learning surahs and he always taught me from right and wrong. And during that time, like as a kid, you don't really see the benefits of it. You're like, man, you just making me do this, man. You're sitting there just, frowning and just reading or going to the masjid, like, man, I could go play PlayStation or I could go ride my bike, you know? But looking back at it now, I was like, man, if it weren't for that man right there, who knows where I would be? Because he really installed like the core in me. And, yeah.
Yeah, that makes me ask, is there a particular surah or story or verse in the Quran that really speaks to you?
For me, so there are, I would say a surah that speaks really to me in volumes, right? Is Surah Rahman, that's one of them. I would say the reason why is because like Every day we wake up, our imam is like up and down, up and down. And we are sometimes unsure of who we are as a person or with our faith. We're like, man, Allah, just give us signs that we're good doing things. Give us signs of you or anything like that. And Surah Rahman just goes back to back of signs that He has shown for us to increase our faith, you know? And said how and he's like basically telling us, how could you ask for more signs while I've given you so many on this earth? Have you not thought about this? How you have not thought about that? And to me, it's just like, man, it hits me hard. Like wow, like you're right. Why have I not thought about that? You know. So it gives you a more of like a alhamdulillah moment. Like okay, alhamdulillah. You know, just be happy with yourself. And then another Surah Kaf. Obviously, you're supposed to recite it every Friday. There's towards the end of the surah. I don't remember it, but it talks about how in this world we assume we are doing good things. You know, it's those people who assume they're doing good tidings, good things, but in reality, in the eyes of Allah, they're not. You know, and that hit me hard because like people could be like, yeah, you know what, I'm fine, I'm good. I do my zakah, I do everything. You assume that you're doing good, but in reality, we will never know how good enough we're doing in the sight of Allah because we just, that verse shows you like you can never be sure of that because you think you could be maybe one of those people who think that they're doing good, but they're actually not. So
Yeah, that's a scary one. It
yeah,
makes me think of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, a tyrant in Muslim history. And what's interesting about him is that at his deathbed, he said, "Oh God, I am so excited to meet you." And he said, "The people say you won't forgive me, so forgive me." And I just think like, whoa, like just the
that is,
dynamic there is so fascinating. When you think about how merciful God is, but also, the justice. It's like it's a very interesting thing to just think about. I also like Surah Rahman. I think it's a really cool one. It, as you said, that whole thing about signs and
yeah,
favors, and it's like, yeah, I have to reflect in my life too. Like, oh yeah, there were things that happened that worked out for me. It's like, did I forget that so easily? And you just kind of
exactly.
have to keep reminding yourself that. It's very interesting. That leads me to ask you about patience, man. What do you make of patience?
Man, patience is something like it's a battle. It's a really uphill battle. um
Uphill battle. I like that.
yeah,
Sisyphus and his boulder. Yeah.
yeah, it's just uphill battle. You got to remain patient, even though when times like you're being tested, you just gotta push through it, man. That's all I can say. It's like a really uphill battle. You just gotta just persevere through it.
Yeah. It's a pretty thing, patience, I think. I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Easier said than
it's
endured,
easier
but
said than done, but yeah,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. You know, yeah. Going back to Harry Potter, do you see yourself in any of those characters?
man. I just wanted to go back to Harry Potter just so I could ride the broom and have be like wands and all kind of stuff. Funny fact, there was a cool time, right? When I was a kid, I wanted to be Harry Potter. Like literally just put the glasses, even though I was black. I was like, I'm Harry Potter, you know? There was a time my mom, this was back when I was in Philippines, because I was born in the Philippines. My mom used to teach, and she teach these people who were like big Harry Potter fans, and it was a Korean school or whatever, and they literally named each other like after the Harry Potter. Like this guy was named Harry Potter, bro. And I was just like, man, that's Harry Potter, mom. Like I was a kid at that time. I was like, man, they probably be having swords and wands, and they be doing all types of spells and stuff. I was like, man, mom, I want to go. Can I go with you to work? You know. So when you're as a kid, that imagination is crazy. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And I bring it up again because it's just something it's just been kind of fixed in my mind lately. Because I remember as a kid myself similar to you. Like I also wanted to be Harry, and I read some of those books, and it's interesting again to to revisit a childhood interest, but as an adult, and see it through a
Yeah,
different lens. And in
yeah.
particular, like the character of Snape, like
Oh
I
yeah,
look at that character with like a bit more of a careful eye. Who was that? What was the symbol behind that? And just that
yeah.
at battle between like darkness and good, not just in humans, but in a human, like just
Yeah.
inside the one person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
Yeah.
was always back for that. Like you could never. He had you on the edge. Like you couldn't ever tell was he the evil or good. He just had you in between. So there are times where you're like, no, I don't like you. Why would you do that? You know. And there's such like, oh man, he is maybe he's a good person. Maybe it's a profana. He's just
Yeah, and I think about that a lot, just in terms of human beings in general, because oftentimes what happens is will like life 50, 60, 70 years is a short time,
right.
holistically speaking. But at the same time, like it's kind of a long time for a human to live, right?
That's
And
true.
people just they open up a history book and they strap a label onto someone as good or bad. And it's like, dude, those were so many years of a life. How can you just put a blanket statement on them after reading about them for 10, 15 minutes? And
That
I
is
just think about that. Today I was watching a documentary on President Andrew Jackson. And I remember like growing up in school, we were always kind of taught that he wasn't exactly a great guy and
right.
that he people frown on him as a president. And when I was watching the documentary, they were showing so many different aspects of his life throughout time. And I was like, when he's dead, how could you just put on the label as good or bad? Like that was a human being. There's
Right.
so much involved, and it's like we can never put the stamp on someone. There's just so many factors to everybody.
That's true. Because at the end of the day, we can't we can try, right? But we can never achieve because we never know the pureness of that person's heart. We can't read their heart. We can't tell their intentions. So or what's been going through their mind, what was going on in their situation or you know. So I feel like we can't ever label somebody as this and that if we don't like
Yeah,
even if we really like study them, you live with them, you breathe with them. You can never understand someone's intention of heart because
you can never.
yeah,
And there's even actions that people do, and it's like secretly they don't even want to do them. And there's things that they never do, but they secretly do want to do them, good or bad, right? It's like you can
right.
just never know. It's an
Uh,
interesting thing being a human.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, but this has been a fun conversation, man. I really appreciate you, venturing with me on all these different
Nah,
topics.
bro. This is what we do on the regular. Even in the basement, we just
Yeah,
pop off. We just have these conversations.
absolutely.
I love having conversation like this. It's very,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, very beautiful on both sides. At the same time, it's good. It's like a little exercise for the mind. Just
Yeah,
two
yeah.
people, bright people, just having a bigger picture in life.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate it. I always love talking to you, dude. Anytime I see you, honestly, it's like, yeah, like it's a good talk, man. It really is.
It always is,
Uh,
bro.
yeah. I'm curious, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say, but you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
Uh, just closing thoughts. Whoever's watching, just if you have a goal, go achieve it. Don't quit. Just stick to one goal, and no matter the ups and downs, keep battling it. That's just the number one. There was a saying, right? The number one key to success is the will to never give up, even through failures and everything. It's the will to never give up. Most people that ever want to be successful in life, they try something, it doesn't work, they quit. They try something, it doesn't work, they quit. They go to something else. They try something, it doesn't work, they quit. That's not the key. You find something, you do it, you keep trying until it works. Eventually, it will work. So that's what I would end off saying. You know, guys
Thank
got this.
you.
We believe in you.
We got this,
Yeah,
inshallah. Eh?
Inshallah, inshallah. Ya Rabbi.
Yeah, thank you for those sweet words of wisdom, man. Honestly, and truly, I enjoyed all the things you said. There were a lot of gems to unpack there, and
Yeah,
this will benefit who it needs to benefit, man. So appreciate your time and your wisdom.
man, appreciate you, man.
No,
Thank
thank you, thank you. I suppose until next time, inshallah. Eh?
you. Inshallah. Hopefully I'll be back.
Hopefully, yeah. You take care,
Yeah,
my friend.
you too.
Thank you.